Welcome back to the Knock-On Effect, the rugby show where we say what the pundits won't. Lads, were you watching the rugby over the weekend? I think we've a few things to discuss. In today's video, we're going to do a full URC round 4 recap, but in particular, we're going to focus on the Irish provinces, and we're going to identify the Irish players being criminally overlooked by Andy Farrell. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. Right, so we're going to discuss the Irish teams later in the video, but first, let's take a look at the other action that you might have missed from round 4 of the URC. Edinburgh hosted Benetton in the Hive and they put in a dominant and confident display. Benetton have proven over the past few years that they are no pushovers, but they just got nilled by an impressive Edinburgh. Benetton looked slow, they got sucked in and annihilated out wide time and time again. Fekitoa was lucky not to see a red for a no-armed high shot, and as a whole, this is a match that they'll want to forget fast. As for Edinburgh, they've had a tough start to the season, but this is the first game back in the Hive, a difficult place to travel to. 7 tries, 2 braces for Darcy Graham and Dylan Richardson, and a brilliant performance from captain Magnus Bradbury. They need to carry this confidence with them when they hit the road again. Next up is the Dragons versus Cardiff in the East Wales Derby. This was a hard fought and at times ugly match. Cardiff didn't look particularly flashy in this one, opting for route 1 more often than not to crash their way over the try line. A worry for them has to be the place kicking. 6 misses now for Sheedy in his last 3 games. Nonetheless, they'll take the win over their rivals and move on. As for the Dragons, it's never a good look to consistently lose the upfront battle on your own gain line. Their silver lining is they never stopped fighting and at least are heading away with a losing bonus point that they managed to grab at the end. The Lions finally get a win on the board against the Scarlets, and you'll never guess what, they were at home. Now I say that, but there was more people in my living room over the weekend than there was in Ellis Park. The positives, despite a messy and slow scoring game, the Lions kept their focus and pulled away with a bonus point towards the end. As for the Scarlets, they are bottom of the table with 3 losses from 3. In a very competitive URC this year, they are going to have to find a way to keep concentration up until the final whistle. Every point matters. Zebre hosted the unbeaten Stormers, and unfortunately for the home crowd, they weren't able to stifle the South Africans. Zebre kept things close for the first 60 minutes, but the Stormers proved too strong in the end. The Italians have had a much improved start to the season, and despite what the scoreline might suggest, they proved a difficult hurdle if not for a handful of late tries. As for the Stormers, Sasha Feinberg and Ngola Zulu has really returned from Springbok duty like a man on a mission. Now there are 2 tries here and the Stormers look like they have their sights firmly set on the final. Lastly, the Ospreys hosted Glasgow and Dunraven, but they were outclassed by the Scots. Much like Zebre, the Ospreys were neck and neck with the Warriors for a large portion of the match, 21-17 after 50 minutes, but Glasgow just kept coming. Jack Morgan is yet to make a comeback into the fray for the Ospreys, and by God they looked like they were missing him. As for Glasgow, an impressive display to grind out a bonus point win. Johnny Matthews on the score sheet again. The hooker can't stop scoring. Before we get into the Irish teams, if you've been enjoying the video, be sure and hit subscribe. It honestly goes a massive way in creating more of this kind of unfiltered rugby content. Right lads, so this week will be interesting. It feels like Munster, Ulster and Connacht just made a big statement for Andy Farrell over the weekend. The blue media will have a busy week ahead doing the usual mental gymnastics of justifying why the informed players still don't deserve an Irish call-up, but we do things a little differently here. We're going to take a look back at the games and identify the players from each province that may have been overlooked. First up, if you've been living under a rock or just for shits and giggles want to recap Leinster vs Munster in full, I'll leave a link in the description for our reaction. From a Leinster perspective, what I will say is this. First, I think a huge amount of the blame, it has to fall at the feet of Leo Cullen. All this talk about a staggered start for your Lions, and yeah, it certainly played a factor, but it's your job to deal with that. Tadhg Beirne was the best forward on the pitch. He didn't seem sluggish at all after his Lions tour. The Leinster Lions aren't stepping back into a team where they're unfamiliar with each other. It's the same group, bar a few faces, for the past 5 years. Second, there is a genuine argument that even another Leinster player has actually been overlooked. Fintan Gunne is coming up and he's genuinely coming into his own this season, and he put Gibson-Park to shame in terms of speed and tempo when he came off the bench. We need to see more of him in a blue jersey. Now, on to the Munster boys. There was so many good performances around the park, and while I'd love to name 7 players that I'd love to see in a green jersey, I'm just going to stick with 2. Gavin Coombes and Tom Farrell. I'm genuinely baffled. Coombes has proven time and time again that he is a workhorse. He's a big, bulky ball carrier with an eye for the try line. Is that not exactly what Ireland have been crying out for? In all fucking seriousness, what does this man have to do to be warranted a call-up? It's becoming a joke. As for Tom Farrell, he's been around the block and he's playing his best rugby of his career. He's just pocketed the starting Irish centre partnership. What else do you have to have on your CV? I hear people saying he's too old, and while he might not be a player for the next 5 years, Andy Farrell has no problem picking older players, so why not pick one who's actually in form? Right, so it turns out that Bundee Aki and Robbie Henshaw are both doubts for New Zealand. I still think it's absolutely criminal that Tom Farrell is this low down in the pecking order. Just as a side note, while I'm not suggesting that he'd start right now, Dan Kelly needs to be capped sooner rather than later, or we're going to have another Anton Frisch situation on our hands. Moving on to Ulster, an away win versus the Sharks, and my god do you just love to see it. Now this Sharks team has the most Springboks out of any of the South Africans. Oxen Shea, Eben Etzebeth, Mpimpi, the list goes on. Ulster looked impressive, sucking them in and keeping the ball alive and clinical in the open spaces. But what players are specifically being overlooked from Ulster? I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's time to start putting some respect on Nathan Doak's name. He has become the heartbeat of this Ulster side and is beginning to build a great partnership with young Jack Murphy. Doak has speed, he has size, he has accuracy, and he has one hell of a boot. Can you please tell me why he's not in the Ireland squad? I'll wait. There's no logical reason. I'm honestly speechless about this one. Another one for me is Tom Stewart. Here's a mad stat for you. He started 27 matches for Ulster and he has 29 tries, 60 caps in total. He's 24 years old and he's shown every bit of potential you could possibly ask for. As has Tom O'Toole. O'Toole has previously broken into the Irish squad, but he's just been left behind again. For what reason? In the front row, we're bringing 12 players on the Autumn Nations series. 11 are from Leinster. You're not just bringing their starters, but you're bringing their B and C team players. It's a joke. Out in the back line, I think Zac Ward is in an unreal start to the season, while James Hume is every bit as battle-hardened as you could ask for. Ulster just showed us that they're not only a home team, but they just took the scalps of the Sharks in their first game back in South Africa. Maybe we should start to take them a bit seriously. Moving on to Connacht, they were unlucky not to come away with a win against the Bulls. Josh Murphy received a red card for striking a Bulls player who appeared to take a cheap shot against him at the bottom of a ruck. The officials missed it and Connacht ended up the wrong side of a 28-29 scoreline as a result. But who has really been standing out for Connacht? I'm going to throw Prendergast in here, because although he's regularly picked to travel with Ireland, he rarely fucking plays. He's a fantastic player, a brilliant leader, and he deserves to be getting more minutes. Sean Jansen, the man with the braid, always stands out for me. He's a brutish ball carrier and he never slows down. He's New Zealand born and similar to Dan Kelly, bar a single Ireland A cap, I'd lock him into a green jersey just in case. I think the main gripe that Connacht fans can have is Shane Bolton. He's been electric on the wing for Connacht and he came up clutch again against the Bulls with a chip through leading to a try. Hugh Gavin is another player who seemed destined for Ireland but just seems to have been forgotten about. Look, I'm going to leave it there because I want to wrap this whole thing up with a point. I've heard the question again and again. Are Ireland risking alienating Munster, Ulster and Connacht fans? The answer is a blatant yes. The reason is because the selections aren't consistent. People are calling for in-form young talents to be called up instead of aging players. But we're told Farrell likes experience. That's okay, that's his preference. Then why is he bringing 22-year-old C-team Leinster players in the squad? You can't have it both ways. Even when players are eventually and rarely capped, they aren't really given a chance, are they? If they don't have a 10 out of 10 game, they're thrown back into the shadows. I'm absolutely thrilled that Munster beat Leinster on Saturday, not just as a Munster fan, but as an Ireland fan. Together with the stellar performances of both Ulster and Connacht, it has sent a clear and direct message to Andy Farrell and Ireland. We are in form, and we're not to be overlooked. As always, cheers for watching, catch you at the next one.